Hello and welcome. My name is Susie West and I am the CEO at Shared Services Link. And today I am interviewing Christian Lanng, the CEO at Tradeshift. Hello, Christian.
Hi, Susie. Glad to be here.
So, Christian, there's been a lot of talk in the market about the new development at Tradeshift, which is the Tradeshift Studio. So I was wanting to find out from you today, please, a bit more about it, especially if we can start off with how you see the Tradeshift Studio benefiting the suppliers and the buyer companies out there.
Absolutely. So I think one thing we saw was that whenever you make an investment in digitizing your supply chain and maturing your supply chain and going more electronic, you start one place, and as you develop, maybe you start with electronic invoicing and then you're moving into purchase orders and so on. But down the line, you find that there's more and more processes you want to digitize. And most of the solutions out there, they stop or they offer a fixed set of features you get out of the box, so to speak. And we really always thought that your supply chain solution should be a little bit like your smartphone, where you could just plug in additional features and you can activate them as easy as activating an app on your phone. And we created Tradeshift Studio to work with our customers and our suppliers to easily build apps and bring additional capabilities to the supply chain processes, ranging from anything to payments, logistics, tax collection information, so a lot of different scenarios.
Great. As a concept, it sounds fantastic and clearly a concept that the market will naturally understand. Could you just walk us through how it would play out in practice from a supplier perspective and also from a buyer perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a customer recently who had a lot of information they collected from their suppliers when they were setting them up. And a lot of this information was collected manually. It had to do with ethical work statements around how the workplace environment were and so on. And they had always collected that on PDF and just had it faxed in. But they invested in invoicing through Tradeshift, and they had all of the suppliers digitally connected to the Tradeshift platform. So they said, we actually want to build an app that captures this process. It's something that's very unique to our company. And through the Tradeshift Studio process, we sat down with them, we designed an app. It's completely designed and branded to belong to our customer. And because the Tradeshift platform allowed for apps, what they basically had to do was just to click and distribute this app to the whole supply chain. We recently sat down with a customer who had a custom process around the collection of ethical work statements about how the work environment were with the suppliers. And today, before that was a completely paper-driven process. The suppliers would be filling out a PDF and mailing it or faxing it to the customer. And since the customer had already invested in connecting the suppliers on the Tradeshift platform for doing electronic business, it was natural for them to say, can't we also just put this process on Tradeshift? So we worked with them to create a completely digital app that the buyer could activate and basically push to all of the suppliers. So next time the suppliers they logged into Tradeshift, there was a new app sitting there and saying, this is from the buyer, can you please activate me? And then they could give all of that information electronically through Tradeshift. So it solves the problem of being stuck just with the starting set of features and really giving the buyers the ability to expand what they're doing.
So the Tradeshift Studio is not necessarily a place where you can build apps that have already been built. It's a case of actually creating your own app based on your own needs and business requirements.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we wanted to address is that maybe 30-40% of what's going on in the supply chain is completely custom. It's very unique for the companies doing business together. And there was no good solutions for sort of capturing all of these custom requirements. It was very hard and very inflexible often to adapt these existing network solutions. So the Tradeshift Studio, we're really giving that power both to the suppliers and buyers to come up with completely new processes and put them on the Tradeshift platform.
And to what extent will these new apps that have been developed with a client be available for other clients? Is there a sharing practice that comes into play once the production has been complete?
Yeah, so we've seen that for some apps already. Some of the stuff that we did for the collection of some of these ethical work statements and other things from the supply chain has actually been merged into our vendor registration app, which is a completely new area that we're doing for our customers. It's the whole setup and registration of new vendors and managing the data from that. So that's now part of that product. It's an app that's part of that, and we work with the customer to include that in that product, something they're very happy with because that means it's maintained and part of a broader solution. but also something that benefits all the other customers on the Tradeshift platform.
It's beginning to sound like, Christian, that Tradeshift is very much into developing products and customizing those products around the buyer clients and the supplier clients. To what degree do you feel that this is an advantage that other providers that are not necessarily competing with you but are in this space, to what degree do you think this differentiates you from them?
I think it differentiates us quite a lot, and I think, investing in connecting or doing any kind of automation of your supply chain is typically a big investment. And investing in the change management around getting your suppliers live and interacting with you, an even bigger investment. And what we just want to avoid is that investment is not a sunk cost you can't get back. So with the Tradeshift platform, once you made that investment, you can keep benefiting from it by adding new processes and by even digitizing your supply chain further. We think it's completely natural to think about future supply chain as a platform where you can add in all of your processes rather than being limited with a few P2P processes that are there out of the box. In the past, that's been quite hard to do with the cloud because the cloud tends to be one size fits all and you can't really adapt or modify. But with the Tradeshift model, you have the complete advantage of being on the cloud, but you still have the full flexibility also of adding in new processes and applications. And it's a lot easier than people think.
Sure. We talked about the buyer example there. Is there a supplier example that you can draw on where a supplier has actually worked with you to develop an app?
We have multiple apps already on the supplier side. We have a lot of third parties who work with us to put apps live for the suppliers. So examples for that is for instance, currency trading. So we recently started work with a partner called Currency Cloud, who wants to build an app for our suppliers that basically help them hedge the currency on their transactions. Something that's really smart because small businesses, they have typically a difficult time figuring out what's the right rate in the bank, how much it's going to cost me if I'm doing cross-border trade. And with the Currency Cloud app, it basically sits on the invoice, listens to your invoice when you create it and gives you an offer on a quote for the currency when you get paid. So I think these are some of the innovations that you're really seeing starting to happen because the platform is open and third parties can get in and co-develop for the platform.
My final question for you, Christian, how is the market responding to this exciting development?
So I think the market has responded tremendously well. We already work with our last generation of customers. I think all of them have built apps with the Tradeshift Studio. But I think, we got a lot of inquiries and we're talking to a lot of customers right now who are thinking about, oh, we have this process we're doing here, or maybe if we could combine it this way. So I think it's really been warmly appreciated by the market, and we are very, very excited to see where this is going to go in a year, as we already have a lot of partners in the program.
Exciting times. Christian Lanng, thank you very much indeed.